I thought I'd record a quick video about how to back into the right audience size for your budget when running LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has official advice on this. They recommend if you go to their help center, their LMS, 50,000 minimum to drive results across most campaign types. It's kind of contradictory because then they say 300,000 for sponsored content and messaging. Most campaign types are sponsored content. It's a bit strange. And they have a separate recommendation for text ads, which is a less common campaign type, although I like them. So I wouldn't, in general, it's like taking advice from like a casino, right? So you kind of want to take it as a reference point and then draw your own conclusions, especially because in LinkedIn's case, the algorithmic sophistication is like not at the level of Meta or Google. Really, the value proposition for LinkedIn ads is the precision of the targeting and the context, the ability to get in front of people when they're in like a business frame of mind. So when you're building an audience, enterprise teams will often build the audience first and then back into the budget. Like when I was in-house, I would have a sales team. A sales team will have a target account list they want to get in front of in order to basically to penetrate a sort of list of accounts. And oftentimes that kind of flows down from the top, from sales leadership. So that audience is coming from the sales team, it's coming into marketing leadership, and then it cascades down into the performance marketing division if it's in-house or the agency, and then they come back with a budget recommendation to get in front of that set of accounts. And there's like a negotiation that takes place. Like the budget is the budget for paid media. So let's take a kind of extreme example and say if you have $1,000 a month for LinkedIn ads, you go in your own company and you just kind of want to test it, scenario like that. How big should your audience be? You might take LinkedIn's advice and say, okay, I need to get in front of the audience should be minimum 50,000 people. There's no way you're going to make any sort of impact on 50,000 accounts with $1,000 a month, which is why a lot of agencies say unless you have 3 to 5K a month to spend on LinkedIn ads, don't even bother. I actually disagree. I think that $1,000 a month is viable. You just have to be smart about how you play it. Below $1,000 a month, and it gets a little bit tough. But all right, so there is a formula circulating around the LinkedIn professional space for calculating budget based on audience size, right? And you can see that this kind of reflects the workflow. Yeah, basically the workflow that an enterprise would have, where an audience comes in and then you give a budget recommendation based on that you then ask for based on the audience that sales wants to crack into. So the budget equals the audience. It's not the actual audience you get from Clay or whatever the data source is. It's the audience that is successfully matched by LinkedIn, because you have to upload the audience to the audience manager. Divided by 2, because only about half of any audience is active on LinkedIn each month. Divided by 1,000, because you're calculating this based on a CPM. CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions. You should have a sense of if you've been running LinkedIn ads for a while, what the CPM is. You can just look at your own data. Times 5. That's based on a target frequency of 5 impressions per person per month. The logic there being you have to get in front of people multiple times, otherwise they're not going to remember seeing your ads. And then you divide that by 0.8, because this formula assumes an 80-20 split between cold traffic ads that are using this audience and retargeting. It's going to be based on engagements with your ads on LinkedIn page and things like that. I think it's a good formula, and I would essentially use it if I was in a situation where I was just asked for a budget recommendation and these were the accounts marketing and sales leadership wanted to get in front of. So the way this would kind of work is if you have 50,000 matched accounts and you know historically for the people, the seniority levels you want in your industry, it's a $50 CPM. You're to assume the active audience is going to be more like 25,000. You're going to need 125,000 impressions per month to get in front of these people 5 times a month. And yeah, $50 CPM, that means the cold campaign spend is going to be $6,250. And then you're going to want to add 20% for retargeting. So it's just over $7,800 per month. That's why LinkedIn ads is considered to be reasonably expensive. So if you're in a situation where you just have a budget, you have just a fixed amount that you can spend, you have to go about it differently. You start with the budget and you solve for audience size. So you can basically just rearrange the formula using basic algebra. So now instead of the budget being what you saw for the audience size, so audience equals budget times 0.8 times 1,000 times 2 divided by the CPM divided by 5. If you're just starting out, you probably don't know what your CPM is, but you can just assume $50 to start. Reasonable enough assumption. So running this through $1,000 a month at a $50 CPM, so the cold layer of the campaign is going to be $800. You're going to be able to buy 16,000 impressions per month. So given that you need a frequency of 5, that means you're going to be able to get a reach of 3,200. So your total audience after it's matched in LinkedIn should be around 6,400 people. Because remember, only half will be active in a given month. So yeah, I guess I just want to emphasize this is so radically different from LinkedIn's recommendations. It's not 50,000, it's not 100,000, it's just 6,400 people to start with. Because that's what your budget can properly saturate at $1,000 per month. Basically, what you're trying to do in advertising is get people to remember you and specifically associate that memory of you with the vertical that you are in and the problem that you solve. So the way to brute force that is just through repetition. If your ad creative is especially good, you won't need to repeat yourself as much to get the desired kind of memory structures implanted. So that's the reason for having good creative, basically. If you want to read more about that, Byron Sharp is probably the best resource. LinkedIn is going to tell you when you launch the campaign that it's too small, and you got to just ignore it, right? LinkedIn's recommendation is built around kind of their algorithms, delivery needs, the assumption that their ideal kind of advertiser is a sort of enterprise, but you need to play the game differently if you don't have kind of an enterprise budget. And just don't worry about it too much. Small budget just means it's small, precise audience. That's pretty much it. Tighter targeting, smaller company list, specific titles. You want to be strict about geography. You want to, ideally you're using a real CPM data. I use 50, but once you have some data, you can adjust that and when you make additional audiences. And you're going to want to also look at your actual professional demographics report after once a week when you're starting the campaign to clear out irrelevant job titles and make sure there isn't like one company consuming 30% of the impressions. So that's the formula again. Yeah, any questions, feel free to let me know kind of in the comments, or my email is pretty much public. So you can also email me or find me on LinkedIn under Dominic DeJoy. Hope it's helpful. Thanks.